Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Joshua, the 8th chapter. And a brief recap of the 7th chapter. You had a man by the name of Achan, who was of the tribe of Judah. He defied the Lord, and upon his greed took a Babylonianish garment, some gold, and some silver. Due to this, right, Israel was slain before the men of Ai, and when it was inquired of, it found out that indeed Achan was guilty of this, and he was stoned and burned along with his family. So this is Joshua 8 and 1. And the Lord Yahweh said unto Joshua, Fear not, neither be thou dismayed. Take all the people of war with thee, and arise, and go up to Ai. See, I have given into thine hand the king of Ai, and his people, and his city, and his land. And thou shalt do to Ai and her king as thou didst unto Jericho and her king. Only the spoil thereof and the cattle thereof shall ye take for a prey unto yourselves. Lay thee an ambush for the city behind it. So the difference is, the Lord says, basically destroy them all, except for this one, I'm giving you permission. The cattle, right, and the spoil, you can take, for yourself. Okay, and then the way you're going to take the city down is you're going to set up an ambush. Okay, so you're going to send certain men, as it's going to tell us here, and basically, it was like a war strategy here, really, that the Lord gave them. So Joshua arose and all the people of war to go up against Ai. And Joshua chose out 30,000 mighty men of valor, and sent them away by night. And he commanded them, saying, Behold, ye shall lie in wait against the city, even behind the city. Go not very far from the city, but be ye all ready. So you guys are going to go by night. You're going to go behind the city, all right? Far enough to where they can't really notice you, but not too far. And just be ready, be alert. And I and all the people that are with me will approach unto the city. And it shall come to pass that when they come out against us, as at the first, that we will flee before them. So just like the first time we went and they slew our men, we're going to go. Once they come out, we're going to run, we're going to flee, right? And they're going to think, right, for they will come out after us, because they're going to think, oh, them Hebrews are back again. They didn't learn their lesson the first time. Let's go get them. So they're going to chase us till we have drawn them from the city, for they will say, they flee before us, as at the first. Therefore, we will flee before them. So in other words, we're going to draw them out the city. You're lying in ambush behind the city. Verse 7, Then ye shall rise up from the ambush and seize upon the city, for the Lord Yahweh your God will deliver it into your hand. And it shall be, when ye have taken the city, that ye shall set the city on fire. According to the commandment of the Lord Yahweh shall ye do. See, I have commanded you. So that's the plan. You lay in wait. We'll draw them out the city. Once it's vulnerable, because all the warriors are after us, then you come, take hold on that city, charge in there, and set it on fire. Joshua therefore sent them forth, and they went to lie in ambush, and abode between Bethel and Ai, on the west side of Ai. But Joshua lodged that night among the people. And Joshua rose up early in the morning, and numbered the people, and went up, he and the elders of Israel, before the people to Ai. And all the people, even the people of war that were with him, went up, and drew nigh, and came before the city, and pitched on the north side of Ai. Now there was a valley between them and Ai. So there's this, it's self-explanatory. And he took about 5,000 men, and set them to lie in ambush between Bethel and Ai on the west side of the city. And when they had set the people, even all the host that was on the north of the city, and their liers were in wait on the west of the city, Joshua went that night into the midst of the valley. So once everybody was in position, right, you had those that were waiting in ambush, you had those that would draw them out. Joshua goes into the valley, so now he's getting closer to the city. And it came to pass when the king of Ai saw it, that they hasted and rose up early. And the men of the city went out against Israel to battle, he and all his people, at a time appointed, before the plain. But he wist not that there were liars in ambush against him behind the city. So they say, speed, out, go get him, go get him, go get him. They all ran out the city. Hey, 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 hey. Just to go and find out that you've been got. And Joshua and all Israel made as if they were beaten before them and fled by the way of the wilderness. So they basically like scrambled as though they were, shit, this is no match for us. We gotta go. We gotta go. And all the people that were in Ai were called together to pursue after them. They say, hey, everybody, I don't care what you're doing. We going after these Hebrews. We're going to put an end to them now. And they pursued after Joshua and were drawn away from the city. And there was not a man left in Ai or Bethel that went not out after Israel. And they left the city open, and pursued after Israel. And the Lord Yahweh said unto Joshua, stretch out the spear that is in thine hand toward Ai, for I will give it into thine hand. And Joshua stretched out the spear that he had in his hand toward the city. And the ambush arose quickly out of their place, and they ran as soon as he had stretched out his hand. And they entered into the city and took it and hasted and set the city on fire. Now this is spiritual because technically from how far they were, because remember Joshua, the ambush was behind the city. Joshua was basically in the front leading them away. So Joshua and those that were with him had fled further away from the city for the inhabitants to chase them. So chances of those in ambush actually seeing Joshua with his hand raised is very little. But the Lord had it all coordinated to where when Joshua did that, that was like the signal, and the Lord put the spirit on those that were in the ambush to rise up and go and do what they got to do. And when the men of Ai looked behind them, they saw, and behold, the smoke of the city ascended up to heaven, and they had no power to flee this way or that way. And the people that fled to the wilderness turned back upon the pursuers. Gotcha. So here it is. They turn around. I say, what's that? And they see the smoke coming from the city, and it's like, oh shoot. And then you got the those that were in ambush on one side, and then all of a sudden, these Israelites that were fleeing before you into the wilderness turn around. And now the hunter becomes the hunted. And when Joshua and all Israel saw that the ambush had taken the city, and that the smoke of the city ascended, they turned again and slew the men of Ai. And the other issued out of the city against them. So those that were in the ambush, now they came and pulled up. So they were in the midst of Israel, some on this side and some on that side, and they smote them, so that they let none of them remain or escape. And the king of Ai they took alive and brought him to Joshua. And it came to pass, when Israel had made an end of slaying all the inhabitants of Ai in the field, in the wilderness, wherein they chased them, and when they were all fallen on the edge of the sword, until they were consumed, that all the Israelites returned unto Ai, and smote it with the edge of the sword. So once they had basically taken everybody out, they came back to do a complete job. And so it was that all that fell that day, both men and women, were 12,000, even all the men of Ai. For Joshua drew not his hand back, wherewith he stretched out the spear, until he had utterly destroyed all the inhabitants of Ai. So Joshua, when he raised his hand, he held it up the whole time until we completely, took them out. Only the cattle and the spoil of that city Israel took for a prey unto themselves, according unto the word of the Lord Yahweh, which he commanded Joshua. And Joshua burnt Ai, and made it an heap forever, even a desolation unto this day. And that is very telling, because I believe when you go into that word Ai, Haran goes into that all the time. Ayah, it says here, heap of ruins. okay, in which he goes into that connection of the, IE, which is the acronym of AI. Interesting that, that's what they decided to call technology they have today, which indeed will lead to them ending up as a heap of ruins, which is a form of destruction, a representation of destruction. It says here, and Joshua burnt Ai and made it an heap forever, even a desolation unto this day. And the king of Ai he hanged on a tree until eventide. And as soon as the sun was down, Joshua commanded that they should take his carcass down from the tree, and cast it at the entering of the gate of the city, and raised thereon a great heap of stones, that remaineth unto this day. And I believe here it is. Let me see. Is it this? No. Let me cross-reference this and see. Yep. And they did that because in the law, right, if you hang somebody, you're not supposed to leave that body overnight, right? So it says here, if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. For he that is hanged is accursed of God, that thy land be not defiled, which the Lord Yahweh thy God giveth thee for an inheritance. So there you go. If you're wondering why it is that they took his body down, that's in the law. Verse 30, then Joshua built an altar unto the Lord Yahweh God of Israel in Mount Ebal, as Moses the servant of the Lord commanded the children of Israel, as it is written in the book of the law of Moses. That's in Deuteronomy. I think that's what was being referenced here concerning the building of the altar. An altar of whole stones, over which no man lifteth up any iron. And they offered thereon burnt offerings unto the Lord Yahweh, and sacrificed peace offerings. And what that means of whole stones is the altar that they built, what with the stones that they used, those stones had to be whole. It wasn't one that's like been chipped or cracked or broken, as it says, by any means of like tools that anybody has used. Okay, and that's in Deuteronomy 24 and 7. Sorry, 27 and 4 to 5. And he wrote there upon the stones a copy of the law of Moses, which he wrote in the presence of the children of Israel. And all Israel and their elders and officers and their judges stood on this side the ark, and on that side before the priests, the Levites, which bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord Yahweh, as well the stranger, and he that was born among them. Half of them over against Mount Gerizim, and half of them over against Mount Ebal, as Moses, the servant of the Lord Yahweh, had commanded before, that they should bless the people of Israel. And afterward he read all the words of the law, the blessings and cursings, according to all that is written in the book of the law. There was not a word of all that Moses commanded, which Joshua read not before all the congregation of Israel, with the women and the little ones and the strangers that were conversant among them. And when you go into that word, strangers and conversant, okay, I think it was also used in Samuel, referring to the servants of Nabal, right? It says they were conversant amongst the men of David, meaning they were amongst them. So here it says sojourner, right? A temporary inhabitant, a newcomer lacking inherited rights, of foreigners in Israel, though conceded rights. Now remember that the host, right, that we had, you also had, non-Israelites among them, right? As I mentioned, there was a mixed multitude that left Egypt, but you also had, let me see, I'll look it up here as well, but I believe you had Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, which were the Kenites, if I'm not mistaken, that may have been amongst them at this time as well. But let's look up the word conversant and then let's confirm that. Halak, right? It says to go, to walk, manner of life. So those that were the strangers that were among. When it says conversant, it doesn't necessarily mean like speech, but amongst. Now, let's look up here in Joshua. Let me see. Were the Kenites with Israel during the conquest of Canaan. Yes, the Kenites were allied with Israel during the conquest of Canaan, and some of them journeyed with the Israelites into the land. So there you go. So you had Israelites and you had, some non-Israelites in there as well. Now, even though the word here is gar, right, as it says, sojourner, a temporary inhabitant, which is, really dealing with Israelites. But when you look at the actual situation, right, here, all Israel were coming into the land as like kind of like foreigners, right? Because we were now taking over the land. So this is different from like us having established the land and then, you had an Israelite leave and then, generations down the line, they come back, right, as a foreigner, though they're an Israelite by nature or by heritage, but they were lacking the rights of being born in the land, right? So that's slightly different here because we were now establishing the land as ours. Okay, so though the word used here is gar, here the strangers would make sense to be referring to the actual non-Israelites amongst Israel at this time, i.e. like the Kenites, for example. So with that brings us to the end of the book of Joshua, the 8th chapter. Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.